Bo Bichette post-game telling multiple people as he was being interviewed in that wild club scene, he's ready to go. Do you think he's really ready to go? And do we have any idea what that would look like for them?
I do believe he's ready to go. He actually told me the same thing the night before. He said, I will make myself available. And I said to him, well, will the team deem you available? And he said, I assume that will be the case. So what is ahead here is very interesting because if Bichette comes back, I doubt it will be at shortstop. It's just too much. And at that point, what do? Well, he's probably the DH. If he's the DH, George Springer has to go back into the field, and you lose Addison Barger or Nathan Lucas. And Barger in particular has been kind of a revelation out there. So I don't know how this is going to play out. The other question I have, and I'm kind of curious what AJ and Todd think, is here's a guy who has not been a part of it since September 6th through no fault of his own. He's been hurt. But you've got something special going here, and as important as he is to the team, does it disrupt things a little bit if he comes back, particularly if he struggles initially, which would not be a great shock since he hasn't played in a month and a half?
Ken, I said this last night on the postgame show, and I don't know what they're going to do because I don't know where he plays. You can't DH him because Springer's knee. And Springer's not a great outfielder at this point in his life. Anyways, their defense in the outfield has been really good with the way they have it set up. And then Giménez has been awesome at short. And I know they're going to say, oh, well, take IKF out and just move Bichette to short. He hasn't played shortstop in a month and a half. He hasn't hit in a month and a half. He can't move well enough to play shortstop. So and there was an old saying in baseball, you don't make two positions worse by putting one guy in there, right? And that's what it seems like it would happen. I know Bo Bichette is great. I love Bo Bichette. I think he's one of the, great player. But I just don't know how they do this without affecting it. I mean, if you want to use him as a pinch hit, fine, but God forbid something goes wrong and then they got to throw him out there on the field. It's like, oh man. Or do you just say, look, Bo, we're sorry you got hurt. We really do apologize, but we got to go with what got us here.
Well, it's a great question, particularly because AJ, he is a free agent to be, and he's not going to be part of their future. It's almost unquestionable that Andrés Giménez will be their shortstop from here on forward. I think that was part of the reason they acquired him in the first place, to protect themselves if Bichette did not sign. And I don't know that they ever expected to sign him. And I don't know that many teams are going to look at Bo the same way as a shortstop. His defensive metrics are not good. He's been one of the worst shortstops in the league, according to those ratings. So if this is it for him, and if you feel your team is better set this way going into the World Series, man, I don't know how you put him on. And it's going to be a really interesting question. He's Bo Bichette, as you said. Great hitter. A huge part of what they have done in all of these years. Him and Vladdy and him. But it's just a tricky spot that they're in with him right now.
So, my opinion, I feel like this guy is needed for this team, in the World Series. I think this Dodger team is that good. I think they need all the best bats they need. I think it's a guy that could come in. Do I think he has what it takes to be ready right away? I think they're going to have to take a chance. I just want your humble opinion about this kind of player. Do you think he's needed in the World Series for them to win a championship, or do you think they could do without?
Todd, that's a great point. And that really is the other side of this, that you're facing a team that is going to be favored to beat you. You are facing some of the best starting pitching we've seen in the postseason since, I don't know, maybe AJ's 2005 White Sox team, honestly. So given that, and given who he is as a hitter, that's the case for putting him on, taking your best shot as a team. It's just that all these other things that we just talked about, they're factors too, and they complicate it. So I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know what the right solution is for them. It's, as I said, very tricky and a good problem to have in a way, but it's also something that is really delicate.
I want to talk a little bit about the bottom of the lineup for Toronto. I felt like coming into this playoffs, it was kind of like hit or miss really of what they're really about. I thought if the bottom of the lineup could come through, good things were happening. What a big inning they had yesterday. A big walk and then IKF with the single to kind of kickstart everything. Talk a little bit about what you saw there and how that's going to bode well for them going into the World Series.
That was a huge difference in this series. the Blue Jays' bottom of the lineup was so much better than the Astros' bottom of the lineup. It was not even close. And we saw Giménez hit two big two-run homers in this series. He dropped the bunt last night, and it was a huge key for them. And Giménez is a guy who has not been a good offensive player for a while now. And he had some injuries this year that kind of prevented him from maybe taking the step forward that he wanted to. But he emerged in this series again as something of a threat. Their bottom of the order has been, no question, a huge factor for them. Barger coming on later in this series. All of these things that have happened. IKF with the big hit last night. They are 1-9 pretty good. They are 1-9, certainly a team that puts the ball in play better than most. What's interesting to me about the World Series coming up is this. The Brewers, same kind of offense, really. Chaotic, put pressure on the other team, etc. Doesn't strike out much as an offense. And yet, the Dodgers just absolutely smothered them. Can they do the same thing to the Blue Jays? I don't know. And it's interesting that they're going to start this series here in Toronto, where I am still, and go from there and just kind of have that home field advantage. I don't know that the Blue Jays can beat the Dodgers. Can they give them a series? That I think is possible, but a lot's going to have to go right too.
Ken, I got to ask, because I had, before we get to the Mariners side of this, which, to the victory goes the spoils. Do you have your mea culpa? Because Scott had his mea culpa for the Mariners ready if they would have made it, because he rants on them all the time. So we know your history with the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays played an incredible series. They deserve a ton of credit. So do you have a I'm sorry Blue Jays fans ready for us? Because Scott was ready with his I'm sorry Mariners fan. Instead, he got to pile on again today.
I'm going to jump in after whatever Ken says, but go ahead, Ken.
First of all, AJ, if you ever read me, which you don't, you would know I've already written this. And you would also know, in fairness to me, for a change,
that for me,
I've written about the Blue Jays last year, the year before, they were not a team that played to its potential. The things I've written about their front office were things a lot of their fans were saying too. But hey, certainly they deserve all the credit for this season. And it's been one of those seasons, the executives like to talk like this, where they got 99 percentile outcomes in almost every area. Not every area, because even some of their additions didn't really work out that well. Scherzer was hurt all the time. Giménez was hurt all the time. Santander was hurt all the time. But they fortified at the deadline, and they just had this kind of magical run. A manager who evolved from the guy who took out Jose Barrios a couple of years ago and seemed to have a great grasp of this team. They've got great veteran leadership in that room. They have younger players contributing. It's kind of a perfect mix, a team you really like to see play, like to watch. And all the credit to them. Absolutely, they deserve it. And I wrote that at the start of the postseason, AJ. You're late.
Wait, was that was a weird way to apologize, Ken? Like, that wasn't really an I'm sorry.
Not apologizing. There's nothing to apologize for.
Yeah. Wait, bring me in, because I want to add to this, Ken, because I think it's important, not just for AJ, because he jokes about it, but for fans. If you want us to talk about our opinions, right, and commentate on the sport and not just be robots, then you can't hold what we say a year, 2 years ago to a different team. You didn't say the Jays are paper tigers forever. They will always be paper tigers. You talked about a specific team that was not good. This year's team is good. And it's not like you've been smashing them all this year, which some people have done. Some people will say, oh, this Jays team.
John Snyder was getting fired in like April, remember? And now here he is going to the World Series.
So is their front office. Hey, there were a lot of people who thought this was going to be the end of the run for this group. And then they signed Vladdy. And that actually, as I wrote, I believe yesterday, made a big difference. It kind of freed up the team, as John Schneider said at one point on Jason Stark's podcast. It ended any possibility of Vlad leaving as a free agent, assured the players that the team and management was intending on winning, and winning not just short term, but long term. And it kind of changed the whole dynamic of the club. That was a big thing for them. And now when you look at Vlad Jr. playing the way he's playing, of course, ALCS MVP, you see maybe why he was worth the money. And that's what I wrote about yesterday as well, AJ. You can go back and read that one too.
What's reading? What's reading, Ken? What's that?
He does too much talking to read. But Ken, let me continue on, because this plays into the Mariners portion. And I have a question for you about
Yeah.
them. But what AJ was referring to is how I loved, like many others, the Mariners pitching staff for the past few years and felt like this was the first time that they actually supported the other side. Shocker, the offense was significantly better, blah, blah, blah. And here they get to this point. I was pissed the prior 2 years that I felt like they had this and they were not supporting the lineup side. That seemed to play out exactly that way. And if anything, the starting staff had some more injuries this year and ineffectiveness. We saw it in this series too. So my question for you, though, is what happened with Dan Wilson? You spoke to him after the game. He kept using that pivot term to you and to everyone else. And I get it, but I don't get it because it's October 20th, not June 20th.
Yeah, I didn't like the call either to go to Bizzardo and not Munoz there. I don't really know that there's a good explanation for it. You've got to stop the game right there. And then you worry about the ninth inning later, or the eighth inning and the ninth inning at that point. They hadn't used Munoz much at all in the series, and you end up losing the series essentially without him. So he's going to get criticized for that. He should get criticized for that. I didn't agree with it, and I didn't really even buy his explanation. Usually when managers explain their moves, I say, okay, I at least see where he's coming from. It's a little tougher with this one. Dan Wilson, a heck of a nice guy, and you hate to see any manager, any team in the pain that team was in after the game. It was rough to see. Cal Raleigh was in tears. And given the 49 years and everything surrounding them, it just was so disappointing for them. And any fan out there, obviously some fans probably hate the Mariners, but any fan out there who can't sympathize with what that team was going through in that moment doesn't have a heart. Now, I will tell you this. What I was going to write if they won the game, depending on circumstances, but this was the way I was leaning, was kind of going back to Cal Raleigh's comments 2 years ago at the end of the season when they were eliminated by Texas. And remember what he said then? He basically called out management for not showing enough commitment. And that same offseason was the offseason in which President of Baseball Operations Jerry DiPoto said, hey, you win 54% of your games over a 10-year period, you're going to get your shot once in a while. Fans should be thankful that we're being patient like this. And, of course, it didn't come off well. I knew what he meant, and actually what he meant kind of came to fruition here. They won, 55, 56% of their games this year and almost made it to the World Series. But this team has come a long way. Their moves at the deadline for Naylor and Suarez were moves that they might not have made before. So they had a great season. They won their first division title since 2001. They beat the Tigers in that epic division series. They extended this series to 7 games. They had a 2-0 lead. We all know that. They had an opportunity last night with a lead. We all know that. But if I'm a Mariners fan, of course I'm crushed. At the same time, as a fan, my opinion is all you can ever ask for is a competitive season in which your team's kind of in it all the way. They got that. Now, of course, they want more. We all understand that. And eventually you would expect they're going to get more. They're going to get that World Series finally. But this was a tough way to lose. No question.
Hey, the Cubs said that for 100 and something years, Ken. So they can, they're going to get that World Series eventually. I mean, they're only 47 in. They got 49 more, 59 more to go. 40. How many ever years they're in? They only got like 50 something more to go to get to the Cubs. So go Cubbies. But no, the thing is they went. Jerry DiPoto had the famous quote, 54%, and Cal Raleigh came out and said, "Oh, I didn't really mean what I said. It was taken out of context." But he was exactly right with what he said. They finally did it. Will we see more? What I want to know for the Mariner fans out there, will we see more of this from their ownership? Are they going to say, oh, we almost won, it didn't work, we're going to have to cut payroll because Naylor's a free agent, Suarez is a free agent, right? Some of these pitchers are starting to get to where they're ARB eligible, and they're going to have to get paid a lot more money. Yes, they signed Cal Raleigh. Yes, they signed Julio. But what are they going to do? Are they going to stick with this trend, or are they going to go back to the old Mariners like, oh, well, we'll just try to, win games and hopefully we get lucky?
I don't know the answer to that question. And actually, AJ, it's the right question to ask right now. Where is ownership? Are they going to keep pushing, or are they just going to be what they've been for many, many years now, which is kind of semi all the way in, but not totally all the way in? So that's a question that we'll see resolved in the offseason. And to go back to Raleigh's comments from 2 years ago, one thing he said afterward. He did apologize for making the comments, basically because he was afraid that he had offended his teammates. He didn't want to come off as criticizing his teammates, and he wasn't criticizing his teammates. He was saying we need better players, but not at the expense of his teammates. What he was saying was, hey, we've got to go out and get some people, and that they eventually did. At the time, he did not apologize for wanting to win. And AJ, I know you don't read me, but I had an interview with Raleigh on the pregame show. I believe it was before Game 6. And I asked him about those comments, and he said it came from a place of frustration. And he also said that they've done what they said they were going to do. They improved the team. They've gone out and gotten players, and he had no problem with the front office. In fact, he signed a 6-year, $105 million extension. So you're right. They are now at an interesting crossroads because what they should do is double down and keep going. They've got to improve their team a little bit. But will they do that? I don't know the answer to that.
Last question. We just saw a manager signing Kurt Suzuki with the Angels. Congrats to him. What a great guy. Do you know a little bit about him? Talk about him. What do you think this signing means for the Angels, and how do you see this turning out for the Angels?
Well, Kurt Suzuki is one of the great people in the game, and he's a guy with a very upbeat personality. He played for a world championship team in Washington in 2019, and I have no doubt he can succeed as a manager. I do have doubt that any manager can succeed in Anaheim. And I don't know what happened with Pujols, whether it was money, whether he had just reservations. I don't know. But for Kurt Suzuki, for Perry Managian, their GM, the challenge is working for an owner who is committed in his own way, not committed like you would want to see him committed to winning. So I don't know. I wish Kurt the best. I've known Kurt forever, and he's a great guy, as I said. Will he be a great manager? You never know when you hire someone essentially who has never done it before. But he was a former catcher. We all know how smart former catchers are because on this program, they kind of run the show. But at the same time, do I count on this being a success? I can't count on this being a success. No.
That's a good way to put it. There's such an obstacle there that will continue to be an obstacle, but we'll see how he handles it. And I'm excited to also at some point see what happened with Pujols and with Artie.
Hold on, before Ken goes, I know he's got to go. But Ken, would you have had Munoz in the 7th, or were you happy with the Bizzardo move? You would have had Munoz. Okay.
Yeah,
you disagree.
I think you got to stop the game right there. And again, there's the leadoff walk. You can get somebody up right then. Then you got 2 more hitters before Springer's spot came up. Yeah, I would have had him up in that game. You still had Brash. You still had Bizzardo after that. You could have managed the rest of the game quite well.
That was the game.
That was the
biggest
game
moment in franchise
and
history.
One other thing. The night before, and I got a text from a manager right after the game about this. Bizzardo pitched 2 innings. Now, it was only 15 pitches, but he threw 2 innings, and I believe that was his 9th appearance of the postseason. Or last night was 9. I'm not quite sure which. It was one or the other. He appeared in almost every game. He was kind of their Louis Varland. At some point, you got to go to your best guy, and they didn't do that.
Yeah. Brash pitched 2 innings in 7 games, Ken.
Munoz.
Munoz.
Not enough. Right.
He's too good. Wasted on the bench. Yeah, that's where Mariners fans are at right now. It's like great season, whatever, but it's not like they lost that game cleanly. There's a move that many would make that I think is really causing a lot of pain right now in Seattle. So we wanted to make sure we hammered it, and then we can move on. Ken, good stuff, and we will talk to you obviously later in the week about the World Series matchup coming up.
Sounds good, guys. Thanks.
Thank you. That's Ken Rosenthal, FT Senior Insider. Of course, you're going to be able to see him on World Series coverage as well. Inside Scoop is presented by Lids. Here's the deal. Today, we just announced a giveaway. Why? Because it's World Series week. We're teaming up with Lids, and we're giving away an MLB hat of your choice and a box of 2025 Bowman Chrome cards. These are some of the most coveted boxes out there. And what you need to do is comment under the post who you think will win the World Series. That's it.
Not the Yankees.
What? Well, you can put that. I don't know.
I'm just saying they're
If
not
it
going to
makes
win.
a lot of sense.
The Yankees aren't going to win.
Well, that was just the hat that we grabbed. And
Oh.
also text territory to 29017. Receive 20% off your next headwear or apparel purchase. And can you show me real quick before we go to break? Because we cracked open one of those boxes, but the other one is the one that we are going to give away. Here we go.
Is that the one you opened?
This is the one I opened. The other one's over there, and that's the one that we're going to ship out. So this is that pretty Bowman Chrome. You'll have an auto, I think, in every
Todd's
box.
so mad. Todd wants to win that so bad right now.
He does. He does.
Mm.
Todd,
I
these
do.
are the good. These are the good ones, right? This is where you can find like that, that rookie's first card with an auto. Yeah, there. I mean, usually every year you get one in here that could be a 6-figure value piece. Not in every box, but the pull.